Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. A round of powerful thunderstorms that began Memorial Day weekend continues to hammer parts of the south central U.S. At least 8 people have died in Oklahoma and Texas in the past 3 days. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott declared states of disaster in 24 counties. Caitlin Burke has more.
Residents in the Houston, Texas area say it's the worst flooding they've ever seen.
You cannot candy coat it. It's absolutely massive.
I'm standing in about 8 inches of water in my living room.
Probably like 6 foot deep at the beltway, underneath the beltway in I-10. That's where I picked up 8 people there.
The state has been pounded by tornadoes, heavy rainfall, and thunderstorms. Flash flooding in some areas, sweeping homes off their foundations, mowing down trees, and forcing evacuations.
It sends a powerful message to anyone who is in harm's way over the entire state of Texas over the coming days as we see ongoing rain. And that is the relentless tsunami-type power that this wave of water can pose for people. Whenever local elected officials or anybody warns people to get out of the way, to abandon wherever they may be, and to evacuate, the devastation that we've seen is a reminder to heed those warnings.
In neighboring Oklahoma, many of the same problems. 4 people there are confirmed dead, including a firefighter who died during a water rescue. Forecasters warn that severe weather is expected to continue across the south central part of the country throughout the rest of this week. And today, the chance of severe thunderstorms expands farther east, stretching from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Iraq is launching a new operation to drive Islamic State forces out of Anbar province. That's the province to the west of Baghdad that ISIS invaded last year, conquering the area's capital, Ramadi, just this month. The fall of Ramadi marked a major defeat for Iraqi forces. They had been making progress against ISIS over the past year with the help of U.S.-led airstrikes. Now, Iraqi state TV has announced government forces began a new counteroffensive today to take back Ramadi. Those Iraqi troops will be backed by Shiite and Sunni paramilitary forces. Australia is introducing a new law that would strip dual citizens of their Australian citizenship for terror crimes. The law would allow Islamic State supporters to be treated the same as Australians who join foreign armies at war against Australia.
For a long time, since 1948 in fact, the Citizenship Act has provided that a dual citizen who is fighting against our country will automatically forfeit citizenship.
More than 100 Australians are suspected to be fighting with terrorist groups in the Middle East. Prime Minister Tony Abbott says up to 50% of those fighters are estimated to be dual citizens. Suspected terrorists could have their citizenship revoked, even if they have not been convicted. Returning now here to the U.S., Cleveland is expected to reach a settlement with the Justice Department over the city's pattern of excessive police force and civil rights violations. The Department of Justice released a scathing report back in December, demanding the Ohio city devise a plan to reform its police force. But the settlement comes just one day after hundreds took to the streets to protest a judge clearing an officer who killed an unarmed couple as they sat in their car. That shooting came at the end of a 25-minute car chase that involved some 100 police officers. A new scary trend that has kids summoning a demon is going viral across social media. A Ouija board-like game called Charlie Charlie Challenge. The challenge involves putting 2 pencils on a piece of paper in the shape of a cross and writing the words yes and no in the boxes outlined by the pencils. The participants then summon what they say is an ancient Mexican demon called Charlie. Some Twitter users have said they've come into contact with more than one demon and experienced other demonic activities, such as hearing voices, things being moved, and more. Ireland became the first country in the world to legalize same-sex marriage by popular vote this weekend. The measure passed in a surprising landslide, with 62% supporting it. Analysts said supporters use social media to mobilize first-time young voters, and church leaders acknowledge the attitudes of young people and the social revolution in Ireland.
There's a growing gap between Irish young people and the church, and there's a growing gap between the culture of Ireland that's developing and the church.
One leading Irish political analyst said, quote, "We're in a new country." A deadly heat wave is sweeping across India. So far, the scorching temperatures are responsible for the deaths of more than 500 people. Many of the fatalities happened in the country's southern states. Temperatures in some areas are reaching near 120 degrees. Authorities are urging people to remain indoors and to stay hydrated. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appointed longtime foreign policy confidant Dore Gold as Director General of the Foreign Ministry. It comes as much of the international community is at odds with Israel and cozying up to Iran. Netanyahu will hold the foreign minister position himself, but he appointed a deputy foreign minister to work closely with Gold. Gold says he knows there are significant challenges facing Israel, and he told CBN News earlier this year about one of those challenges, conveying the threat of Iran that Iran poses not only to Israel, but to the U.S. as well.
The moment Iranian Revolutionary Guards went to Mexico to recruit an operative for a mass casualty attack, I'm speaking about someone who was a member of the drug cartels, you saw that Iran's support for regional destabilization, for infiltrating the United States, is now part of their policy. And they did that without having nuclear weapons.
The Jerusalem Post says that by appointing Gold, Netanyahu has put a close ally in a key position in the ministry. Israel's Negev desert is becoming a vibrant part of the Jewish state. It's a dream first envisioned by Israeli founder David Ben-Gurion, and now many women are taking part in that goal with help from an American friend. Here's Chris Mitchell now from the Negev desert.
From pottery to bicycles to a bed and breakfast, many businesswomen of Israel's Negev are starting to make a difference. The Negev desert makes up more than half of the landmass of Israel. Some people call it a wasteland, but others see it as a land of opportunity. Ben-Gurion, for example, saw the Negev as a place where Israelis would be tested in order to populate the wilderness and make it flourish.
Possibilities are endless in the Negev.
American Christian Beth Eastern exudes optimism about the women and the region. Eastern, a Colorado businesswoman, heard about the need here and answered the call.
The state of Israel needs to really get it that there are so many Americans, true Americans, that are Christians that would give up almost anything to help them. That they're on their side, that they're not here alone.
Einat Doron has lobbied on behalf of women entrepreneurs for years and found an ally in Eastern.
I was alone in this thing. Everything was on my back. And I feel that with her, I can share ideas and stuff. And I think she brings us, things from abroad.
They asked me, would you please come and talk to the women of the Negev region and help them, find their niche.
Eastern now works with many of the businesswomen in the Negev. Shmuel Riffman, the mayor of one of the Negev's regions, appreciates her investment.
Time is something taken for granted. Money comes and goes. But the way Beth Eastern is investing her time and the efforts that she's putting in is hard to believe.
Many of the businesswomen say Eastern is making a difference. One way is promoting their products on the internet.
Well, she's actually connecting us. She's actually helping us support this forum of women and connecting us out to overseas. As we know, Israel is small. The Negev is, is a small part of Israel. So she's sort of connecting us more to the outside world. And I think this is very important.
For Shahar and Ruthie, both potters, it meant a boost in confidence.
It meant a lot for me. I think you feel like there's somebody that is there for you,
She gave me courage. She gave us hasha'ah, inspiration.
The Negev is rich in biblical history where men like Abraham once walked. Eastern sees a bright future for this land. And for this businesswoman, the bottom line is love.
My ultimate goal, I think, is to show the Jewish community down there that the Christian side is very much on their side and that we love them very much.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Negev Desert.
The next president, whoever that may be, will have a major problem to deal with: the huge bureaucracy in Washington and beyond. Coming up, we'll break down that issue. Government regulations are proving to be very costly for the economy. A recent report says those regulations cost the U.S. nearly $1.9 trillion a year. That's the finding from an annual report called the 10,000 Commandments from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. According to the Wall Street Journal, the report also points out the cost of U.S. bureaucracy adds up to nearly $15,000 per household each year. That bloated bureaucracy is a big concern for conservatives. They say the federal bureaucratic state has become so huge, it's now a de facto fourth branch of the government, and in fact may be the most powerful branch. As Paul Strand reports, experts will tell you it's completely unconstitutional.
If there's one thing the Founding Fathers cared about, it was liberty. And the last thing they would have wanted was an unelected bureaucracy that could steal your property, your rights, and even your freedom.
It's fifth grade civics all over again, right?
Law School Assistant Dean Richard Kelsey says those Founding Fathers were clear and deliberate about what they'd allow constitutionally.
They took a lot of time trying to figure out how to get this right. Remember, we had the Articles of Confederation first, didn't work. So we got together, had a constitutional convention, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do we make this delicate balance of power.
The founders decided only the politicians in Congress, those closest to and most easily held accountable by the voters, could make the laws that would reign over and even threaten those voters.
They're supposed to make the laws, propose the laws, be answerable to the people, and the president is not a lawmaker. His job is to either say no to this law or yes to this law.
But the unceasing, cancerous growth of the executive branch's bureaucratic agencies has upset this careful balance and made unelected bureaucrats super powerful.
They're like a fourth branch of government now, and they are unaccountable. They're unanswerable to the voters, and they can get away with just about anything they want without any consequences.
And that's allowed modern presidents to basically take the law into their own hands. And President Obama has made this his forte, unconstitutional though it may be.
What he's doing now is he's saying, hey, Congress isn't working. It's not doing what I want. I'll go around Congress. Nothing allows him to do that. It's not even being hidden anymore. The president has come right out and said, if the Congress won't act, I will act. And he's doing it through these bureaucracies.
And now they literally wield life and death power over people.
They are issuing regulations often with criminal penalties. That's something only Congress should be able to do. And yet these unelected bureaucrats have the ability now to declare that certain actions will potentially land you in jail. That's how powerful they've become.
And in many cases, to be penalized, you don't even have to know you were guilty of disobeying these regulations, which are now basically a new type of law.
The famous saying is ignorance of the law is no defense. But that's before we started making hundreds of thousands of laws every year. In fact, lawmakers are ignorant of the law, right? If you remember from the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, they said we have to pass it before we know what's in it.
And even though Republicans have begun talking about reining in some of the regulatory agencies, critics warn the power of the bureaucrats has been growing for years, and Capitol Hill didn't stop them.
Congress over the years has delegated too much of its power to all of these administrative agencies.
So now you have essentially a shadow government in these federal agencies that is running our country, that's determining how the IRS enforces its tax regulations, how the EPA affects your land and your property and your business.
We are empowering this huge federal government that can restrict our liberties, restrict our freedom, restrict our economic opportunities in this country, and it's almost impossible to fight back against these agencies.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Up next, revolutionizing car buying. We'll show you how technology is impacting the auto industry. The days of choosing a car after first visiting a dealership and browsing around are a thing of the past. The definition of a traditional car buying experience is changing with technology. Consumers are now armed with information they've acquired digitally, presenting a new challenge for car dealers, manufacturers, and even innovators looking to further revolutionize the car buying experience. Our Caitlin Burke reports.
For Ray Huffine, selling cars is more than just a job, it's a passion.
I worked during the summers. When I got my driver's license and I was in school, I would go to my dad's dealership.
Passed down from generation to generation, the Huffines dealerships have seen their fair share of change.
World War II, all the car manufacturing plants got turned into military manufacturing vehicles, so there weren't any cars. And the dealerships just had to make it on service and on used cars and repairing.
The challenges of today, rapidly evolving technology and customers who are more knowledgeable than ever.
Used to, people would visit a lot of dealerships, but now they don't. They do a lot of the research online. There's so much information that they can get, and they come in very informed.
Consumers are now only going to a car dealership when they're ready to buy or go on a test drive. That means it's critical for dealers to have websites that are engaging and informative. A recent study by Cars.com shows that 75% of consumers decided which dealership to purchase their car from based on digital research. Huffine says that one of the major changes he's made is to make sure his website works well for smartphones. That same Cars.com study finds that 4 out of 5 shoppers use their smartphone to actually choose their vehicle. Innovators see this as an opportunity to introduce new apps that will further revolutionize car buying and selling. Last month, more than a dozen teams participated in Hackamotive, a 3-day competition sponsored by Edmunds.com aimed at reimagining the future of car shopping. ZipFlip, a web-based peer-to-peer marketplace for buying and selling used cars, won the $20,000 grand prize.
Come to our website, put in the 17-digit identification number for your car, and through a partnership with Edmunds.com, we can show everything about your car and send you a sticker to place on the car that is sort of an updated version of the old for sale sign you'd find at a hardware store, so that somebody with a smartphone can send a code in and get everything about the car, the price you're asking, negotiate anonymously, and even pay electronically.
Some other new apps that could be helpful in your car shopping? Carcode.me. That's a tool that allows dealers to create a code for every vehicle on their lot. Once scanned, pictures, video, vehicle options, and Carfax history are sent to the buyer's smartphone instantly. And Carmera, an image recognition app that identifies vehicles and calls up information on them with just the snap of a photo. Huffine says that changing with the times and keeping up with the latest technology is important, but the service he and his employees show to each customer will be just as critical to keep them coming back. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Dallas, Texas.
Technology continues to move us forward, even the auto industry. Stay with us. We're coming right back. CBN is still on the ground in Nepal, providing relief to victims of those devastating earthquakes. The death toll is now close to 9,000 and thousands more are injured and homeless. CBN has sent more than 100 tons of relief goods, including more than 5,500 pallets of food and shelter materials. CBN staff from the U.S. and 4 international offices have also joined volunteer doctors from Israel and ministry partners in Nepal to provide medical assistance. You can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by going to cbn.com/international. In Kyrgyzstan, a little girl had to beg on the streets for food while her parents got drunk. But thanks to Orphan's Promise, she's now safe, well-fed, and learning about Jesus through CBN's animated program, Superbook.
11-year-old Zumra of Kyrgyzstan loves good food, pretty clothes, and hanging out with her friends. But in her early childhood, all she wanted was for the violence to end.
My father used to abuse my mother all the time.
The beating stopped when Zumra's parents divorced. But then Zumra's mother drank all day, while her daughter went hungry. When a social worker found out about Zumra's situation, she made the arrangements to take her to a children's home.
I had never seen so many children before. I couldn't believe that they would be my friends.
Zumra made another friend in her new home. She watched CBN's Superbook program and learned that Jesus Christ would be her friend forever. Zumra soon prayed to receive Jesus into her heart.
My life became more interesting and better when I began attending the church, and I'm glad that I came to God.
Zumra is still thriving in this special home supported by Orphans Promise. She always has good food to eat and caretakers and friends who love her. Best of all, she has hope for a bright future. She has a flair for fashion and wants to become a designer.
I want to say thank you very much for accepting me here and for the fact that this children's home exists. The children are able to live here thanks to you. That's why I say a big thank you to all.
Beautiful. Well, finally this Tuesday, a message I hope will encourage you and then inspire you to post, tag, tweet, and share with others. It is today's tweetable, and it is this: if you want God to do something different in your life, don't tie his hands with your limited thinking. In faith, expect him to do what you've never seen done. The battle is to allow your faith vision to become clearer than the clouded sight of circumstances. Well, that is going to do it for now and this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Be sure to take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Make this a terrific Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow.